Quick question. I have a lot of people that, you try to share this information. I'm sure when you went down this rabbit hole, you couldn't shut up about it. You're just like, hey, like, look, did you know? Did you know? Did you know? And oh my God, I listened to the Huberman podcast, or it was what's his name? Rick Rubin with Huberman and Dr. Jack Cruz. I listened to it at least like 13 times, and like I couldn't shut up about it for like 3 months. It was amazing. But as I told people about this, I kept getting asked like, okay, like, no, like sun cancer, like I get sunburned, or like, don't you get eye damage from the UV? Like, oh, I get dark spots. We like kind of either debunk those things about the sun? Because we do need to get sun. We were born naked. We're supposed to be naked out in nature on the ground. I do know exactly what to tell these people enough, but I'm sure you do.
Yeah, I just did a reel on the sunglasses actually, which got quite a lot of controversy happening in the health space. Apparently, I'm a danger to society, and the misinformation that I'm spreading.
In today's world, I think everything's flipped. So if they're bagging you for being a danger to society, you're the exact opposite. So
Yeah, exactly. But I think it's quite humorous. It means that people are seeing the message, so that's good. But basically, like, let's start with sunglasses and sunscreen. So sunglasses, not a good idea in my opinion, and many other healthcare professionals' opinion. And in my clinical experience, I've seen massive results come to people's health when they stop, wearing sunglasses and sunscreen. So what you're doing is essentially, we've spoken about already the fact that our internal environment is directly correlated with our external environment, and there's no really separation from. And so when we create blocks between us and nature, i.e. sunglasses and sunscreen, this is going to limit our capacity to interact with light and our environment. We know that light signals certain information to our body, and then our body can read this light and say, okay, this is how I need to run my biology to suit my environment. We've already spoken about the importance of UV light, and then actually connecting with UV light if the UV is high in your environment. And so what are sunglasses doing? They're essentially stopping you from reading that UV light through your eyes. Now, when we make melanin, which protects us from UV light, we need to have that light through our eyes in order for our body to say, okay, I'm sensing UV now. I need to make melanin because the UV is getting higher. So traditionally speaking, as the seasons change, we went from winter into the warmer months with the UV is climbing. Our body is constantly exposed to that light because we're not living indoors. We don't have sunglasses or sunscreen on. So as that UV is increasing, my melanin is also increasing in my body to the point where it's now the middle of summer. I have, lots of melanin in my skin, and I can interact with that light in a really safe way. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing. And so now we're wearing sunglasses. We're all indoors until the middle of summer where we're like, oh, it's a nice day out. It's so hot. I need to go to the beach. And then our body's like, wow, I had no idea that it was the middle of summer. I literally thought it was winter because you're giving it the input signal of winter through the air conditioning that you have, the sunglasses you have on, the sunscreen on your skin. Your body's adapted to suit the winter. And then you're going out into UV and your body's like, oh, wow. And you get completely burnt. So I think that's a good way to look at it.
Completely burning yourself by living in an artificial environment, not signaling to the body how to prepare itself for the actual environment, which is aka summertime, because you were artificially in a box, blocking your eyes, blocking your skin, and not producing the proper chemicals and hormones suited for that environment.
Exactly. And then you throw in non-native electromagnetic fields. Like Dr. Gerald Pollack in his lab did an experiment where they put a Wi-Fi router next to the exclusion zone water, and it completely collapsed, which causes cellular dehydration. So, we're around technology all the time. We have these phones in our pockets, and then we are cellularly dehydrated. So it's just like putting a piece of steak in the microwave. It's just dehydrating you on just the deepest of levels. So yeah, there are two reasons why sunglasses and sunscreen is not good. Not to mention the fact that sunscreen's full of chemicals, and you're putting this on your skin, which then you're heating up and you're, increasing the nitric oxide. So you can actually pull those chemicals into your body, which is not good. Like, it's not just about the food we put in our mouth that gets absorbed into our bloodstream. It's also what the chemicals and the stuff we put on our skin as well. And this is why I'm such a big fan of tallow skincare over any other skincare, because at least it's animal based. So yeah, now in terms of skin cancer, like, this is not medical advice, But there was a really interesting study done on truck drivers. And so truck drivers in Australia, they are working all the time because we're quite rural. You know, it's like 8 hours between cities and things like this. So they're always in their trucks and it's really, really hot. So they always have their aircon on, they always have their windows up. And that was a study done because truck drivers are, I think, the top 3 occupations in Australia that are most likely to get skin cancer.
Wow.
And so they did a study on them, and it actually showed that truck drivers were more likely to get skin cancer on the side of their face and the arm that was facing the window. And so for me, I'm thinking about this and I'm like, okay, normal people would say, okay, that's because there's more sunlight coming through that window and that's why they're getting more cancer. I'm like, okay, yeah, I actually agree with you there. But it's actually because nature never gives us blue light without red light. So there's always this balance of blue and red when there's blue in our environment, naturally speaking. Now, what do, not sunglasses, what does the glass do in your car and in your home? It blocks infrared A light. So you're not actually getting as much of that infrared light coming through, but you're getting a boatload of blue. It's actually intensifying the blue that's coming through into your car. So what you're essentially doing is you're sitting in there with non-native EMFs coming from your devices, and they have no way to dissipate or get out because you're completely closed up. Then you also have this mismatch between your environment. So you're really cold and it's actually hot outside. So your body's sensing the temperature of cool and low UV, but now you're actually smashing it with high UV. And then you're getting this blue light, and blue light stimulates melanocytes without the red, which is extremely, extremely healing for you. So I think that's more likely the cause of these skin cancers rather than the actual light themselves. Not to mention the fact that we have these innate programs in our body that are designed to fix our body before we can get cancer, which has been completely destroyed by indoor living. You know for sure that the blue light after sunset stops our body from going through autophagy, which is a process where we kind of destroy and get rid of bad cells before they can replicate into tumors. Now, if you're sitting in a car like a truck driver all day, exposed to these environmental toxins, you're stimulating your melanocytes, they're becoming dysfunctional, and then you're probably up all night or you're going to bed surrounded by blue light. You're not going to be able to get rid of these damaged cells before they have a chance to replicate into tumors. And now I think that something that's really interesting to note is that we come from a generation that spends 90% of our time indoors. And this has changed in the last 20 years, but yet sun cancer has just increased and gone through the roof by like 170%. So how can the increase in cancer be blamed on the sun when we're never in the sun anymore? It actually should be the reverse. We should actually be seeing less rates of cancer now and more rates of cancer back from our parents' generation, their childhood, when they were out in the sun all the time. But that actually isn't true. Also, the fact that in the literature, every single cancer can be tied to low vitamin D status. So it should be the opposite. If you have high vitamin D because you spend lots of time in the sun, that's when we should be seeing cancer, but it's not. It's in the people who are low in the vitamin D.
Oh, yeah. And I always hear too, it's the ozone layer, that we depleted the ozone layer. And then like I looked into it and like the ozone layer was like depleted at the bottom where Antarctica is for like 20, 30 years. And then like it patched up. But that's like still in people's head of like the ozone layer, like if that's still a valid thing.
I love your expression there. The ozone layer.
Honestly, it's tough. And you know what? I feel for people, again, like who we said earlier, like there's so many conflicting things and people don't know how to trust themselves. Mm-hmm. So, they look for external sources and, it's good to look for external sources, but you got to think for yourself. Mm-hmm. So sometimes, situations, all I hear is, but that's why we're here. If you believe more constructive information like this should be out there for people to know, please leave a like on this video. And if you're a person who's into self-development in all aspects of their life, please subscribe, because that is what we do here at Good Demand. Keep demanding good things. And if you haven't bought a pair of our Good Night blue blockers and you use a phone at night or an iPad or TV at night, please consider buying a pair of these. They're beautiful and they work so well and they help support our growth.